Hi, you're with Julian on the Brown Note, and I'm just wanted to talk a little bit about a recent TV show on narcissism. As someone that has been impacted very badly by a narcissistic person, to an extent I would say qualified for destroying my life for a while, and that took a long time to come back from. And one thing is that I didn't realise what narcissism was until probably a year or so after that all ended. And then I started to discover a lot of commonalities between what narcissism actually is and what the person that I was with was. And it's never really correctly been shown in public what a narcissist is, and also how dangerous they are. It's a very misunderstood condition. And recently there was a TV show on SBS, high quality channel, and the show was Insight, which is also a very high quality show, which always gets everything right. And I had so much high hopes for this show actually delving into the complexities of narcissism, and also to avoid the pitfalls of making these very bad assumptions about what a narcissist is. And I thought it was a disaster. And I can't believe I'm saying that about a show that is as well researched as Insight, that they would make so many mistakes, leave so many stones unturned. I almost turned it off at the start because it was just like this grandstanding populist view of narcissism, which was the one thing that I actually really didn't want it to be. And then it sort of settled into its groove a little bit more. But they ended up perpetuating just about every common myth of what a narcissist is. They failed to engage with most of the important subjects sufficiently. The focus of the show is really distracting, a lot of the time on winding it down to an individual personal level that seemed a bit odd. Like their guests were quite distracting, some of them. They didn't seem to have, like, you'd pick people that were the victims of narcissism, that were traditional victims of narcissism, and I didn't feel that happened. But also some of the guests that they used as narcissists I thought were a bit left field and quite distracting. The worst thing they did, and this is the most common problem with the way the media paints narcissists, is to perpetuate the grandiose myth. I thought that's the one thing that they wouldn't do. The whole idea of a narcissist being in love with themselves and thinking they're great is the most wrong take on narcissism there is. What is much truer is a narcissist is obsessed by themselves and hates themselves and is terrified of what anyone thinks about them, and if anyone will get under the veneer of their surface level noise to reveal to the world what a piece of crap they actually think they are in every way. So when you look at someone like the classic narcissist Donald Trump, this show is taking the point about how he thinks he's brilliant. No one that thinks that they're the best needs to tell you. The people that need to tell you they're the best are the people that think on the inside they're the worst and are terrified of anyone finding out. That was the biggest flaw the show could make. It's the most common perpetuated myth about narcissists is that they think they're great. They think they're terrible. They are scared that you will find out. They run ahead of the curve on every issue. They will break off friendships because they don't want to have the other person do it to them first. No one that tells you, when you're at school and you're 7 years old, the kid that runs around telling everyone he can jump the highest, he's the neurotic kid. He's not the confident kid. They did peel this back and actually go into, if they'd have listened to their guests and actually followed through, you would have understood that their guests were traumatically helpless inside and put up this massive wall around them. But it still was like the lead in, and it was like a distraction. I thought the one thing that they really did badly and missed, and that is so relatable to the modern age of our perception of relationships, human relationships, and the concept of gaslighting. There is no better gaslighting person on earth than the narcissist. It didn't come up in the show. It's one of the main elements of narcissism is gaslighting. If you've never been with a narcissist, you won't understand, but they create a reality that they're comfortable with. They pathologically, as in a disease, cannot be wrong or at fault. This is part of the disease of narcissism and why it is such a destructive mental illness, and it is an illness, and why it's so destructive on other people. You can be a manic depressive and not hurt other people in the same way. A narcissist will hurt anyone within their sphere dramatically. And because they create an alternative reality where they're always wrong, people always call people like Donald Trump liars. They're not really liars. Their belief in reality is the reality that they need to exist. So they can contradict themselves from one moment to the next if what they need shifted. In their heads, they're not lying. And that makes them the greatest gaslighters of all. Because in my circumstances, I was dealing with someone that was offering a different perception of reality to me on a daily basis. Yet, I'm a normal person in a lot of regards. All normal people have self-doubt. If you are confronted with someone who has none, year after year, and this is a gradual drip of what happens with narcissists, because you either tell them to get lost at the start, or it's a gradual drip feed until you are personally eroded to the point you don't have the strength to leave. And that is one of the horriblest things that I know and understand is, why can't a woman leave? I am so horrified that I understand myself why a woman doesn't leave an abusive relationship. I never thought I'd say that, being one of the strongest people mentally I've ever met, but I am. So the gaslighting will present every single argument, their behaviour is often awful, but they will never ever take ownership of their own behaviour. So over time there's this gradual drip, 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 and any normal person will greet absolute confidence by self-doubt, which is what I did. I started to think, am I the person that's going mad? And I believed it. And this person even said to me that I was gaslighting them. Imagine how much that screws you up. And it was only afterwards, a year after the relationship ended, that I started to unwind and unpack. And no, they were just crazy. They were literally crazy. Everything they said was garbage. It wasn't true. But when you're there, you start to believe that you're the one that's crazy. This is one of the most dangerous facets of narcissism, and it never came up in this show. I didn't think the show focused on the victims. I thought they were cursory. I thought that it would have been a much more impactful show to avoid the classic tropes of narcissism that are misguided. If they brought in people that had actually suffered this gaslighting, which is the number one most toxic trait. The other one is a lack of empathy, which they did touch on, but I don't think they did it sufficiently. A narcissist, in its most classic definition, is somebody that is obsessed by how they feel about themselves and how other people feel about them, and nothing else. So if you're sitting in the same room with them crying and you're really upset, they don't care. Pathologically don't care. I've heard it described as in a similar way with autism, with the lack of understanding about other people's emotions. But these people aren't having sensory waves that make it difficult for them to relate to the world. They are solely obsessed by themselves. That's what a narcissist is. So they learn behaviour. You being upset might impact them a lot, so then they will care. But it's really a learned care. It's really trained. It's not I feel bad for someone I don't know because I don't like seeing people upset. It's like, I know that I need to be upset for this person because they're a huge part of my current life setup. But the other thing about having no empathy and not being able to take ownership of anything is when they leave, they can go like that and never look back again because, one, they don't really have any care for anyone else in the world, and two, they've already blamed you for everything anyway. There was so many missed opportunities on this show, Insight. I'm so disappointed it's like you did the opposite of what SBS does. Instead of actually sourcing your material from people that have been through the scenarios, you actually sort of read about it a bit and made a show on that. There was a wonderful woman at the heart of the show, this young woman who was a narcissist, a self-admitted narcissist, who's one of the most articulate, intelligent and self-aware human beings I've ever seen. I thought she was wonderful, and she carried the whole show. But she was there with her partner, and they were talking about how they'd broken through narcissism and how they had a successful relationship. Anyone that had been in the situation that guy has been in and come out the other side could look into his eyes and see how doomed he was. There was no hope there at all. He was already doomed. And I thought the show ended on the most tragic part at all, which was this wonderful woman talking about how she had beaten narcissism because of her hopes and dreams for their relationship as a future, about how she had he got 3 cats because she wanted them, and he was going to get 4 more because she wanted them, and they were going to have kids and stuff because she wanted them. At no point did they notice the irony of what was going on, which was a pure example of narcissism. He got 3 cats because she wanted them. He was getting 4 cats more because she wanted them. They were going to get kids because their relationship, it was what she wanted. At no point did what he wanted even exist. And that's narcissism, SBS and Insight, and you missed it by a mile.